All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Patriots First and Goal. I am Alex Shane, breaking down the Patriots' first and probably only loss of the NFL season with my good buddy, Rich Hill. The winning record is no more. They are back to 1-1. Lost the Seahawks in overtime at home. The high of the Week 1 win has been dissipated. Rich Hill, are you recovering okay? Have you gotten over the loss, or are you still grieving?
Oh, it's one where if you told me before the season started that the Patriots would be 1-1 and that one loss happened in overtime, I would have been overjoyed. I would have been like, absolutely not going to happen. What's really frustrating to me is that the Seahawks, when they did not go for it in that fourth quarter, I was like, hey, the football gods are going to frown upon them for not trying here, not being more aggressive, for settling. Patriots are going to take it. And then what really just pushed me over, what made me so frustrated on this, is that the Patriots returned the favor. They had a 4th and 1 in overtime, and then they punted it right back, which to me is what is grinding me so much, is that I was hoping for, a data-driven offense that was led by just smart play calling. And up until that point, the entire game was just gravy. But just to have that be what the turning point was for this entire game is still grinding me to this day.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's good to be frustrated with the Patriots' loss. Obviously, in this season, we talked about it, wins and losses aren't really that important. But the fact that we're actually even frustrated with the loss, I don't remember the last loss I was frustrated with. I mean, 2023, I was like, the whole thing was just frustrating. It wasn't like how they lost, because there's nothing really happening. So I guess there's pluses to take away from that. Let's get into the game here. For first and goal, Rich Hill. My overall impression, somebody who saw this game happen live, I was there in the nosebleeds with my old man and some of my drunken degenerate friends. Met Logan Mankins, which was pretty awesome. Cool. He was doing a meet and greet. Anyway, my impression of this game was, it's really hard to bash the Patriots for how they played. I think they played exactly as well as they're capable of playing. This is a team with a very good running game, a stout defense, no passing game to speak of, and a bad team lost to a slightly better team because the slightly better team didn't make any mistakes that they could capitalize on. And even then, it was basically a stupid Brissett sack and a blocked field goal away from probably being 2-0. So it's tough to be too upset with a loss, but to your point about being a little frustrated by it, I get it. But, I think this is we're kind of already approaching, I think, the Patriots' ceiling in terms of how they play for 2024.
I completely agree. I mean, you look at how they did against the Bengals and how they did against the Seahawks. It's pretty much identical from an offensive production. Lean heavily on the run game. Rhamondre, Antonio Gibson, like they are doing their best out there. The offensive line playing to their limits. Like they're not punching above their weight necessarily, but they're not disappointing. No turnovers on offense. The most glaring thing, 120 passing yards in week 1 and 125 in week 2 is an impossible figure in the NFL today. I cannot understand how that is what they are doing, especially when all of the other metrics show that like Demario Douglas and Jalen Polk are among 2 of the best receivers at getting open in the NFL, according to all the monitoring tracking. Also, Tyquan Thornton is one of the best at generating separation. So the receivers are doing it. It's just that Jacoby Brissett's not getting them the ball. And also, it just doesn't feel like the offense is playing to that. I think they're just trying to do too much of the let's not try to risk anything here. Let's be so turnover averse that we're not going to do anything at all through the air.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to watch the replay and you see guys getting open across the field and just either the pass protection breaks down or Brissett's not seeing them, whatever the case may be. It's frustrating. It's got to be. I mean, Demario Douglas kind of expressed his frustration in interviews of how he's not able to get what he wants to do this season. Fun stat I heard today, Rich Hill. In the last 10 years, so from 2015 to 2024, 320 teams, right? 32 teams across 10 years. 320 teams of the last 10 years. The Patriots ranked 320th in passing yards through the first 2 games with 85. They're 319th to 2017 Ravens, who had 107. So they have the worst or the fewest passing records through 2 weeks of the last 10 years of any football team. And I wouldn't mind as much, but I just feel like they should at least try to throw the ball a little bit. Like if they have 3 possessions against the Jets tonight, and it's incompletion, punt, I'd be actually pretty happy to see that, because it shows they're like trying to throw the ball. Like, why not get Pop Douglas the ball on a quick little screen, or a short slant to Boutte, or just huck one down to Thornton that he's not going to be able to catch, just to like remind defenses there's a receiver on the field. Because I tell you right now, Rhamondre's great. You cannot run him 20 times a game for 17 weeks. He's not going to make it through. And so they have to figure something out.
Oh my gosh, totally. I mean, you look at that, the pass distribution. Obviously, Hunter Henry had himself a career day. So good on Jacoby for relying on Hunter and being able to get something going through the air. You cannot survive in the NFL getting 5 targets to your wide receivers. Only 5. That's what was like the 2013 Chiefs when they had 0 touchdown passes to wide receivers the entire year. Like, this is egregious to not be able to get the ball to your wide receivers when they're getting open. Obviously, like Gerard Mayo came out of the game and was like, hey, we got to do a little bit better pushing the ball down the field. And to me, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. The offensive line, obviously super banged up right now. Do we feel like Mayo being like, we got to push the ball further down the field? Do we think that opens up the door to Drake May coming in at some point nearer than how it felt after that first week with Jacoby?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, does Drake May have a higher ceiling than Jacoby Brissett? Of course he does. I haven't looked at the film deeply enough to see, is it the kind of thing where Brissett had time and open receivers, or did the guys get open and he just didn't have time because he had to scramble because the offensive protection broke down? They're great against the run. They're a great running offensive line, but can they pass protect as effectively? But if that's the case, why not just shorten the routes, do some quick slants, hot routes, pick plays, rub routes? There's a lot of things you can do if your offensive line is banged up. I do think maybe this game did speed up the May clock to May Day. I really do think that. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen. Definitely not happening tonight. Definitely not happening against the Jets. But maybe I was thinking if he came in after this kind of mini bye on Sunday, he was a starter for week 4. I wouldn't be blown away by that, and it wouldn't be a disappointment to me. I guess the question is, do you bench your starting quarterback after a win, a near overtime loss, and maybe they were competitive against the Jets tonight? It'd be tough to really rationalize that as well. So it's a very tricky spot to be in as a head coach.
Totally. And especially like in your first year, and like Jacoby's a captain. They said they're going to ride with him until there's like a reason to bench him. And to me, like what we saw last year when it was like they had the same leash with Mac Jones, and then he went out and threw like a billion picks, and then it's like, okay, here you go, Bailey. It's like one where they weren't thrilled about doing it. I feel like until Jacoby Brissett goes out there and turns over the ball a lot of time, they're going to keep going with him. To me, though, I see it and I'm like, sure, he's not turning the ball over, but is he even a net positive? Like in the sense of, yes, he's protecting the ball, but 135 yards a game, he's completing below 60% of his passes. His success rate is 43%, which is extremely low. It's one of the lowest in the entire league for a starting quarterback. So he's not turning the ball over, but he's, performing kind of where we thought, around like 25th in the entire league out of the quarterbacks. I think he's not playing bad enough yet to fully bench him, but I don't think he's playing well enough that he has X leash by any means.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if a guy's not he's not playing bench worthy, you can't really bench him. And he's a captain, to your point. It's a really good point. But I also will say, in the kind of the flip side of that coin, I mean, Brissett is under no delusions that he's the guy for the Patriots going forward. He's there to start until Drake May is ready. And if Drake May's ready earlier, maybe I think what'll probably have to happen is, and it's going to happen eventually, where the Patriots are getting blown out and it's like a 3-score game midway through the third quarter. That's when you bring Drake May in. If they're staying competitive, even if they're losing games, I think you got to ride with Brissett until that happens. But until maybe when the 49ers game comes and they're going to 49ers and it's going to be a long day probably, even with McCaffrey and Debo banged up, I still think that offense is too potent for the Patriots to hang with them. maybe that's when you bring May in. If May really develops, and if May has like more passing yards than Brissett in like one half, that might be a nice way to open the door. But if they're continually competitive and Brissett is not losing them games, like I wouldn't put the loss on Brissett at all. I wouldn't blame him for it. It's kind of on the defense for not getting the stops they needed to get, even though that was a bogus PI call, I think, on Jonathan Jones. But regardless, it was basically a blocked field goal and a maybe poor punting decision. I think until Brissett actively starts losing them games, you got to keep going with them.
I will say, though, on the other hand, hypothetical, do they win with Drake May?
I don't know. I mean, look, if could Drake May, could any rookie execute these past 2 weeks game plans, hand the ball off all the time and just dump it off to Hunter Henry? Yes, that isn't a complex offensive scheme to run. So it's not like Jacoby Brissett was the engineer. He kept a couple plays going with his legs. He took a pretty bad sack that knocked him back from a 40 to a 48-yard field goal, whatever it was. But it's not like he's the reason that they won these games or lost these games or weren't close. So it's really a tricky situation to be in. I don't know. I don't envy Gerard Mayo having to make that decision. We know it's happening. It's not like any of us are in any delusion that Jacoby Brissett finishes the season and he's the quarterback all the way through January. But it's just, when do you do it, and when do you do it in a way that doesn't kind of mess the team up? Because I have heard everybody say that I love Brissett. He's my guy. I will run into traffic for that man. I don't want to kind of disrupt that chemistry they have going and that rapport. And May says all the right things. So I do. I think you're going to have to just wait until there's a big loss. That's going to be an easier conversation to have.
Yeah. I mean, I think all we are looking for is just a little bit more through the air. Give the receivers a chance, because right now they're not doing that. Not turning the ball over is fine. It allows them to be competitive, as you said, with a slightly better team if they're able to protect the ball. What it does not allow them to do is try and win the game against above average teams. And they're going to have to do that if they're going to be competitive, unless their defense can force multiple turnovers, which is what they did against the Bengals. And so they're going to have to find a way to move the ball down the field. And quite frankly, for the sake of the development of these young wide receivers, they need targets. You can't just go out there and not give them the ball and expect them to progress in any meaningful way. And so I wouldn't be surprised if, after Mayo's comments that he made after the game, that we start seeing more plays, more passes to the wide receivers, and a more concerted effort to push the ball down the field through the air. And honestly, like, the offensive line has not been the problem in the way that we were thinking. They are, as we said, they're not good. They're still a below average unit, but they are not making the biggest problems out there in the way that, here's another illegal formation kind of a thing that we saw yet again on the tackle. And so it's a situation where they're giving them slightly enough time out there. Jacoby Brissett, I think, has the third longest time in the entire league for how long he holds onto the ball before he throws. And so whether it's because he's running around or whatever it is, there is time for plays to develop. He's just not getting it anywhere where a receiver can get the ball, even though they're generating the separation.
I'll tell you who got the ball a lot were the Seahawks receivers, Rich Hill. DK Metcalf at $129. Yeah. Although 56 of that was on a blown coverage, wide open touchdown pass. Jackson Smith-Njigba had 117 yards. A lot of distribution from Geno Smith, 327 yards total he threw for. Any concern on your end about the defense and how, while they held the running game to nothing, mainly because their starting running back was out, but still, any concern on the defensive side about how easily Geno Smith is able to move the ball through the air?
No, honestly, I mean, I think a lot of it was not unexpected. I think I'm more surprised by the matchups that the Patriots put out there, because Marcus Jones was very much outmatched in the slot. And it's another one where Kyle Duggar, obviously, he misread that touchdown to Metcalf. He was supposed to pass off with Christian Gonzalez, and it just didn't happen. And sometimes breakdowns do happen, and he owned it right away. But for me, it was one of those situations where I'd be like, Jonathan Jones is doing a great job on Tyler Lockett, but maybe you switch it up. Because, very clearly, JSN is a little bit of a better receiver than Lockett at this stage, based off of how he was performing. Lockett great player. Nothing against him on that one. But just based off of how the day was progressing, it might have made sense to say, okay, let's put Jonathan Jones, who is a very good corner, against JSN, who was just too much for Marcus Jones to handle.
Yeah, I mean, I never understood when you look at the Christian Gonzalez stat lines, whenever he's matched up one-on-one versus what the guy does outside of Gonzalez covering him. Why not just give him the kind of Ty Law, Stephon Gilmore treatment and be like, that's your guy, that's your game plan, and just follow him around. I don't know why you don't have that. I think he's proven himself pretty definitively as one of the better corners in the AFC right now. He's had an absolute lineup of receivers, and he has handled them all really, really well. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where the defense was okay. I would like to see them be a little more shut down in terms of the passing game. But again, if you take away just that one big DK Metcalf play and just some of the stupid pass interference penalties, I don't think it's really a huge problem. I am a little concerned. Should there be like a really potent offense, which we might see tonight against the Jets? We have an elite quarterback and Aaron Rodgers taking these guys on. But if the defense doesn't continue to keep games competitive, it might get kind of ugly down the stretch, because if the offense just cannot throw the ball, the Patriots offense can't. I don't really expect the defense to be able to kind of hang forever, because they're going to get gassed.
Totally. And I mean, I think you also look at what the problem kind of is, and it's like, it's no one's fault. They miss Christian Barmore so much. Like, they are weak up the middle. They are not generating pressure. One of the lowest pressure rates in the entire league. And I think it was Evan Lazar who had this, where the Patriots have like the lowest pressure rate in the entire league, and also the highest pressure rate allowed on the offensive line. And it's very clearly just a game in the trenches, and they are not good in the trenches. They have good players. Keon White, very, very good as a player, but there's a lot of gaps. It is something where like Gottschalk can only do so much, and they need to have a second really good interior lineman that just hasn't emerged. I don't think Dietrich Wise is playing his best football at this stage either. But when you think of like, how can they make life difficult for opposing teams, it's the fact that they're not even just like squeezing the pocket to the degree that we feel like they need to. And if they're able to do that, I think the secondary is good enough to make it work out. It's just that they can't cover forever. And this defensive front is now going to be down Juwan Bentley. And they really got to figure out how they're going to approach that, because the weaker their defensive front seven is, this defense is going to fall apart.
Do you think, obviously it's a drop off in talent, but do you think Raekwon McMillan's up to the challenge, replacing Bentley to at least a serviceable degree?
Honestly, I think that they're going to lean on Tavai a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised if they lean a little bit more on Anthony Jennings. I think that's one of those where I don't think he's going to be off the ball as much, but I think they're going to get creative. I think McMillan's definitely going to play on defense, but it's a situation where Jennings is reliable, and that Alabama outside linebacker, he can play off ball to some degree. And I think that they might get a little bit creative on how to figure this out. Maybe they'll use some of their safeties a little bit at that middle spot. So I don't want to like put too much pressure on McMillan. I think he's going to do a fine enough job out there. There will be a clear drop off. I think Bentley is a very good linebacker, but I think who's really going to shine is DeMarcus Covington, who's going to kind of orchestrate some pretty good defensive linemen here.
Well, we'll see, because there's going to be, again, there's a pretty tricky stretch games coming up down this, especially with the Niners in week 4 and the Jets coming up tonight. Those are two potentially potent offenses. That's kind of all I got on this game. Again, Rich Hill, I don't think I have nothing bad to say. I think they played fine. It's clearly there's a very low ceiling on the scene. If they can't generate turnovers, they're not going to score points off of them, and they just have to pass the ball more. There's really not much more I can say about it.
Yeah, totally. I agree. And, they'll continue to prove themselves or not. And this will be a really good test that they have against the Jets. And so I can think of nothing better, Alec, than moving on to second down and going around the league. Look around the calendar on week 3. Are there any games that stand out to you outside of the Patriots and Jets that you're going to want to watch?
There are a number of games, and the good thing about this week 3, it's a great week to talk about and get into Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's number one daily fantasy sports app. It's got over 5 million active members, and it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Because unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. You got to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's only 1 yard from Caleb Williams, and you get an automatic win every football weekend in September. That is a big deal, and it goes away when September ends. So get your Prize Picks in now. You can also now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. With more or less, the Patriots can get you some nice winnings. Just pick Jacoby Brissett for less than 150 passing yards and Rhamondre Stevenson for more than 90 rushing yards, and you're probably going to be able to watch the winnings roll in. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That is code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play only $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. So which Prize Picks week 3? I don't know. The interesting game of the Thursday night game is the Patriots-Jets. We'll talk about that a little later. I'll tell you a team I am surprisingly excited about. It's not going to be an overly good game from a matchup standpoint, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are coming to Rich Hill. Baker Mayfield is having himself a career revival. It's pretty remarkable. An interesting game also is going to be the Ravens and Cowboys, both coming off pretty disappointing losses. The Cowboys got absolutely shellacked by the Saints. The Ravens, they had it. They really should have won that one. And Chargers Steelers, I think, should also be another game. So they're probably the 3 I'm paying close attention to.
Yeah, I mean, one other one I'd throw in there, Texans Vikings. One of the best storylines this year, Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, who's been playing within himself, but you see what Kevin O'Connell has that Vikings offense doing. And on one hand, obviously he's throwing to Justin Jefferson in a much better receiver group, but you also say, why can't our offense overachieve like that one is? And it's one where you go up against CJ Stroud. That's a game. That is a game between the Texans and the Vikings. And for my money, that'll be the one that I think will be the most exciting game of the week.
So speaking of Sam Darnold, who was a former Carolina Panther, the Panthers just benched Bryce Young. I know last week we talked about Deshaun Watson being the worst trade in NFL history. You want to revise that statement with Bryce Young and the King's ransom they gave up and what happened with that whole thing?
I still don't. But not a good look. Not a good look. It's especially really sad when you see how a team has broken the player. You know, it's one where Bryce Young is doing what he can, but he's a shell of his Heisman self. The same thing we saw down the stretch with Mac Jones. The same thing that you see over and over again with those Jets quarterbacks, where, you know what? Thrilled that Sam Darnold's doing well. Thrilled that, it seems like all the former Jets picks are doing pretty okay. And so it must be the system. And, you know, we also saw Mac Jones do well in the preseason with the Jaguars. And so it's always really sad when it just feels like a franchise has failed the player. Sometimes you see a player just not do the effort, not put it in, and it's like, okay, well, this one's fine. Bryce Young and what he has and also has not been able to do with the Panthers, it's a pretty clear sign for what the Patriots are doing with Drake May and what they should probably continue to do, because obviously, the Panthers have invested a lot of money and a high draft pick and Icky in their offensive line, but it hasn't worked. They traded away DJ Moore. They just have not put around the necessary talent for Bryce Young to feel comfortable. It's everyone looks at it like this is one of the lowest assortments of talent in the entire league. And when I was looking at the players that they signed, it's like, okay, you didn't really get any blue chip offensive linemen other than the 6th overall pick. And all of them are, maybe 1 year wonders or an offensive lineman who you're paying top dollar that do they actually deserve it? Are they Pro Bowl caliber, all pro caliber? I don't really think so. And so to me, it's one of those questions that I have with the Patriots where I'm like, I wish they invested a little bit more in that offensive tackle role. So Drake May could go out there and get going, whether it's bringing in Bakhtiari or something like that, bring in a veteran who could just like be fine and let a young player develop. Cause like they are using draft picks on players, but find someone who can let Drake May be protected. And so on one hand, I'm like, I can't believe you're not giving them the right players because you need to have a good offensive line in order for your young quarterback to develop. On the other side, I'm just like, thank goodness you're not putting Drake May behind this offensive line. Because you look at all these other young quarterbacks, both like Mac Jones last year, but also like Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, all these other young quarterbacks are just disasters because they don't have the right protection.
Yeah, speaking of protection, I think we'd be remiss, especially as AFC East fans and people that watch a lot of AFC East games. The Miami Dolphins may be without their quarterback for the rest of the season. The Dolphins play the Seahawks this Sunday, and the Bills are up against the Jaguars on the Monday night game. I believe that the Bills just won the division. I don't see Tua coming back this year. Do you?
No, and honestly, I don't think he should. It's one where they put him on the injured reserve, but he needs to take some time to really reconsider his future on that one, because I don't know how many concussions it's been, but it's far too many. It's a scary situation, and I hope he's able to recover and continue to make the best of whatever his NFL or professional career is. But like, he should not rush back. It is not worth it. And without him, I don't think that the Dolphins really have a chance. So it's a really difficult crossroads for both of them.
It is. It's also very tough to tell a 26-year-old kid that, when you're 50, you're going to regret doing this. Stop making millions and millions of dollars. It's just be a very wise, beyond years mature decision to make. But hopefully, I don't know. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know what's going on there. Kind of scary and ironic that Damar Hamlin was the one that hit him. And that was a very normal, everyday, non-dirty football hit. But I got some monitoring Tua. Thoughts are with you, buddy, on the off chance you're listening to this podcast or whatever. But yeah, again, should be another really fun week of games. Rich Hill, it's Thursday night. It's always a mess. It always has been, always will be. Patriots Jets, that game used to be almost guaranteed 2 wins a year. The tables have turned a bit. The Jets are coming off a win against the Titans last week. The Patriots, like I said, the OT loss. Let's start with the Patriots offense against the Jets defense. We've talked about passing game, getting the passing game going. Just putting the passing game aside and the struggles, and let's just say, for the sake of this argument, that there's the rushing game and the passing game are equally responsible for the Patriots' offensive dominance. What is your attack strategy against this pretty stout Jets defense?
Yeah, I think you just keep running the ball. It's also a situation where, I mean, you called this with the Bengals game, where like the Bengals are bad early on in the year. Thursday's games, weird things can happen, and this Jets defense has not been good. They have not been a good defense so far this year. They ranked 25th in points allowed per drive. They're getting gashed on the ground. I think they rank in the bottom 10 in both yards allowed as well as rushing touchdowns allowed. So they're giving up 4.7 yards per carry. I wouldn't mix it up. I would say, Rhamondre, keep going out there. I think that what the Patriots have done has worked, and their game plan against Joe Burrow should also be the game plan against Aaron Rodgers, which is reduce the number of drives, reduce the number of opportunities that Aaron Rodgers can throw a home run hit, and try and trust that Rhamondre will be able to keep you on schedule, and that Jacoby will be able to do enough with Hunter Henry, with hopefully Demario Douglas, with Jalen Polk, to force the defense to stay honest, but to also just like move the ball down the field. Because I think that the way we perceive this Jets team isn't necessarily how they're actually performing. Like, this defense is not what we thought they would be, nor has the offense. And so I think it's a situation where I think the Patriots obviously want them to move the ball through the air, but I think that they can be competitive by just keeping on schedule on offense.
If there's a receiver you think is poised to have a big day, I'll say big day from a Patriots perspective, so maybe like 4 catches for 50 yards. I had to caveat with that, but like, which of the receiver skill sets think is best conducive to beating the Jets secondary?
Yeah, it's hard because, I mean, this is a very good Jets secondary. They have a lot of talent out there. Sauce Gardner is obviously one of the best corners in the entire league. And so this is not one where you're just going to like overpower them. It's a situation where I think Demario Douglas in the slot makes the most sense. And I think you also just look at how the Patriots have been distributing their snaps. They're still doing their big four. Taekwon's kind of in the fourth spot, even though I think he deserves to get a couple shots downfield. But it's really, in my mind, Polk and Douglas, who have been the two best receivers from just a film perspective, from those who's able to get open, even if they're not given the ball. And when you think of how Jalen Polk's lining up mostly out on the outside, and we'll get that matchup against Sauce Gardner, I think Douglas is going to have opportunities in the middle. And I think especially after Hunter Henry had that 100-yard day last week, or, I guess that was on Sunday, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets said, we're going to take him away. Good luck winning with your receivers. And I could see Douglas having a big day coming out of it.
That'd be good. I think he deserves one. Like I said, based on what he did last year and how he was able to kind of handle his things, somebody needs to step up as kind of like the number one receiver in this defense, in this offensive scheme. I just don't know who it's going to be. Obviously this is going to be another kind of run heavy game. Maybe get the play action going a little bit more. I don't know how the play action hasn't been effective because they run so damn much. You figured they'd always bite on it, but they really haven't opened it up that much. I wonder if this might be a sneaky Jermichael Hasty kind of game. Hasn't really done a whole lot this I wasn't anything this year. I wonder if I don't think he's been a healthy scratch for the starting 53, but we saw a lot of Gibson. We saw a lot of Rhamondre. I feel like Jermichael Hasty might be kind of that change of pace to open things up a bit. I could be wrong on that. I'm not going to go and make him my X factor yet. Maybe we see Jermichael Hasty get a couple of carries in this one.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be interesting. It'd be a nice change up. And I think what we need to see more of, in a weird, sad, not meaning to be defeated way, passes to the running backs. Or using receivers as an extension of the run game, because if Jacoby's not going to be pushing the ball down the field, they need to be more creative with their slip screens and things like that, where they need to get the ball out on the sidelines and try and push it down the field that way. And so Hasty is like a good option on that one. Also can see them doing that with, Demario Douglas or Tyquan Thornton on slip screens, just let their speed take over. I think my X factor is going to be an easy one. It's the offensive line. Obviously, Caden Wallace is probably going to be taking him for the left tackle. So if I had to isolate one person, it would be him. I think he's done very well in limited time so far this year. And he was drafted for this reason. They played on the right side in college, but that was because they had a top 10 pick, whatever, playing on that left side at Penn State. He's doing well. I think he has the capability to do it. And if he can lock down this left tackle spot, and then, City Sal eventually returns, the Patriots could have a good offensive line. They have the ingredients of what could be your long-term solution with Caden Wallace, whether it's City Sal or Cole Strange on that left side, David Andrews, Layden Robinson's playing well at right guard, and then Ueno at right tackle. They have the ingredients. If Caden Wallace is able to go out there and play well on the blind side, Patriots can get an offense going.
And those are all really, with the exception of Andrews, those are all really young players. A lot of them are rookies, and that could be the pieces that maybe if they get a franchise left tackle high in the next draft, then 2025, that might not maybe solve all their problems, but we could be well ahead of where we thought we'd be. The Patriots are really good at finding these linemen, these rookie linemen in the later rounds or free agency, and kind of developing them with the Scar Nekia ripple effect is still permeating the halls at one Patriot Place, which is pretty awesome. Move on to fourth down, Rich Hill. Patriots defense versus Jets offense. Aaron Rodgers is not what he used to be, but Aaron Rodgers at 50% is still better than most of the quarterbacks in the league right now. Are you worried at all that Geno Smith, who put up almost 330 yards through the air, provided some kind of blueprint, and if Geno can do it, Aaron can definitely do it? Or do you feel pretty comfortable that this Patriots defense can handle the Jets can throw at them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking at this Jets offense and being like, wow, they're amazing. Breece Hall, good running back. Garrett Wilson, great young upcoming wide receiver. That's it. That's what I see. That is their offense. And obviously, Aaron Rodgers can always make something happen. But this offense is weaker than what the Bengals had. This offense is weaker than what the Seahawks had as it relates to skill players. And the way that I would approach, if Christian Gonzalez can match up on Garrett Wilson, or Alternatively, have him on an island against Lazard. Then you have, whether it's Jonathan Jones, Alex Austin, or I wouldn't put Marcus Jones out there. So I would say Jonathan Jones on Garrett Wilson with some safety help. Patriots could do a pretty good job of eliminating the passing game, and then they can focus their defensive resources on stopping Breece Hall, who is, for my mind, who they have to stop. He is the engine of that offense. He is a dangerous receiver out there. 91 yards on the through the air as a running back is a lot. He's third on the team, and he's added over 100 yards on the ground. So he's a 100-yard day kind of a player. And if they can slow him down, if they can make it so he cannot just have a field day through the air, because he will extend drives, if they can limit him through the air, then the Patriots are going to put themselves in a good position with Rhamondre on the offensive side to kind of take control of the game.
Will they, Rich Hill, will this finally be the week where they let Christian Gonzalez just shadow Wilson the whole time, or are they going to mix up a bunch of zone and man, and Wilson's going to have like 3 catches for 6 yards with Gonzalez in coverage and 4 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown when he's not in coverage?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question, right? Like they're going against Aaron Rodgers, and you can't just be basic against him, right? Where you're not going to trick him or anything like that. So can you just play your best game? Alternatively, you can't just go in the same coverage every single time, or he's going to figure it out and find someone else to target. So it's hard. There's no simple answer on it. I think honestly, you got to match up more against the receivers and try and like confuse them as opposed to confuse Aaron Rodgers, because I don't think he's going to get confused out there. But if you set out some traps for the wide receivers where they think they're going to find some routes, and with their option routes, make sure that they get in trouble on that one. I could see that working. And then on the other hand, I think what will be the most effective path here is that standard Bill Belichick, I'm going to take away your strong hand, beat me with your weak one. And it's going to be, I'm going to take away Garrett Wilson. I'm going to focus on stopping Breece Hall. And if your third string wide receiver or Tyler Conklin at tight end puts up 80 yards, we can live with that. We're just not going to let you try and take over with Garrett Wilson.
Would you at all be worried, Rich, about Aaron Rodgers? He's not anywhere near as mobile as he used to be. He used to be a legitimate threat to scramble and take some plays with his legs. He can still move, but it's not where it was, nor should it be. No. He's 41 years old, coming off an Achilles. Are you going to even game plan for his mobility at all, or are you kind of not worried about it?
Not at all. He's not that player anymore. He has air quote 3 attempts on the year for 0 yards. And so he's not running. He's not extending drives with his legs. Obviously, you don't want this to be the game where he figures it out. So you play smart football, but I don't think you treat him like you would have treated like Alex Smith in years past, or, he's obviously not Josh Allen. And so you don't have to dedicate a spy on him, but you do still have to play smart football. You still need Anthony Jennings and Keon White to set the edge, make sure he doesn't leak out, make sure he stays contained. But if you're able to do that, I don't think you really have to worry too much more.
Yeah, I you're probably right, but I would just hate to see Aaron Rodgers. Again, I guess I can't imagine Aaron Rodgers really has any massive resentment or rivalry toward the Patriots. They rarely met in the regular season. He's just a Jet now, and I don't want him to kind of have some kind of like old man youth revival against the Patriots. It's a short week, especially, so who knows what's going to happen there. But the point that I think that does require a lot of effective and cerebral linebacker play. I think linebackers are going to be the key to this game. I also think the whole entire unit, my X factor, especially with Jerron Bentley out. I don't know who's going to be wearing the green dot now. Probably Kyle Duggar. If I had to take it up, if I had to guess, he might be wearing the green dot. But I think however they want to average that linebacker core out, make sure the transitions are smooth, make sure the middle of the field is there, no one to crash the gaps, no one to drop into coverage. There's going to be a lot of pre-snap reads for the linebackers. So hopefully they are spending a lot of extra time in the film room this week.
No, that's reasonable. My X factor is someone else in the defensive front 7 is Devon Godshaw. As we mentioned, Patriots interior defensive line is struggling without Barmore. And when you go up against Breece Hall, you need to have a really stout defensive front. I could add Dietrich Wise into this as well. But I'm going with the nose tackle. If the Patriots are able to do better and control the line of scrimmage, it's going to go a long way. If Godshaw's out there and he's getting moved, especially with Bentley out, especially with that second level being more vulnerable than it's been before, then the Jets are going to have no problem moving the ball down the field. And so Gottschalk's probably a bit of a linchpin here for the New England defense. And if he's able to have a good day, it'll go a long way for the Patriots winning this game.
Yeah, it's telling you, man, if only, obviously I'm not in any rush to see him back for the obvious reasons, but can you imagine if Christian Barmore was healthy right now, what this defense
I know.
would do? It's really frustrating to see because this defense, again, they're not elite yet, but they have the pieces to be an elite defense. And Jawan Bentley and Barmore out, you wonder what could have been had they not be hit. It really, really sucks.
Totally. I mean, it reminds me of years past when it was like Gerard Mayo and Vince Wilfork missing time together. Yeah. And it's just like, yeah, that's brutal. I hope they feel better soon. But yeah, that's all I got on this matchup, Alec. I don't know if you're ready to make some predictions.
Let's make some predictions. So the game, these predictions are officially brought to you by Game Time, which is a great way to get tickets. GameTime.co. And I was at the Seahawks game last week. I got my tickets on Game Time. It is easy to do. Going to live games is great. Even if it's Thursday night, you can take Friday off, blow off work. It's a great way to do it. Pick up an upcoming game on the app. You browse to the seats on Game Time picks and talk about the great deals that you find anywhere you want to look at them. There is drop-down menus. There's a super deal. You can view seats before you buy. You get low price guaranteed, event cancellation, job loss protection, and curated deals make it easier to find the best price on great seats. The all-in pricing is my favorite feature. I always hate thinking when I'm paying for tickets and at the end there's all these stupid fees. What you see is what you get with Game Time, and you're getting the lowest price guarantee. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. It's actually prediction time, Rich Hill. It's not game time anymore. And you're welcome for your first victory of the 2024 season. You were 0-3 in the preseason. You were 0-1 week 1, but you picked the Seahawks to beat the Patriots 21-17. I had the Pats winning 2016. So you have the hammer back in your possession. Patriots they're traveling to New York Thursday Night Football. Who you got?
So this is where I feel like I might buck the trend a little bit.
Oh,
I think I'm going to go with the Patriots on this one.
No. Okay.
For all the reasons that you gave for the Bengals winning this one, I feel like there's got to be a point in time where the Patriots become that weird team, right? Where have they been bad long enough? And this is the most privileged thing a sports fan can say as a Patriots fan. Have they been bad long enough? But are they at a point where, you go to the Jets and the Patriots can be the upset? Whenever the Patriots would go down to the Dolphins, and the Dolphins were never bad enough. They were always middle of the pack, but they were a nightmare for the Patriots. Can the Patriots be that for the Jets? I'd be very okay with that. And I feel like a wonky Thursday early in the year when everyone's still figuring stuff out, that kind of sets up the Patriots for success on this. I think that the Patriots have an elite defense. They rank 5th in points allowed, and obviously they're a top 10 one in points allowed per drive. And obviously their offense is the weak point. I see the Patriots winning the turnover battle maybe by 1. It's going to be a close one here, but I think I might go with the Patriots winning this one 23-21.
23-21. That will be a nail biter if that is the case. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I've been saying this for a very long time. Thursday night football is a complete crapshoot. Games that should be close are blowouts. Games that are blowouts are close. Players don't play well. The game plan's not fully installed. Guys aren't fully healthy yet. Sometimes the field's not even ready and guys are slipping all over the field. It's a complete garbage product most of the time, and it's very hard to make an accurate prediction based on that. So I have no problem picking the Patriots there for you because it's just as good as anything else. I'll make it easy. I'll take the Jets. I think I would have taken the Patriots if the offensive line injuries weren't what they were. It's a very interesting state of affairs with Chill when we're like, Fedarian Lowe's out. Oh, no. But that is low. Fedarian Lowe. No. But they have Caden. He's going to hopefully take the reins and not let him go. This is a great chance for a lot of young guys to show they're worthy. But just based on how anemic the offense is, based on the offensive line problems, based on the Jets being at home, I just see the Jets taking this one in a very, very ugly game, something like 20-10.
Well, I hope you're wrong. I hope
Me
I'm
too.
right for the first time this year. And Alec, I don't have anything else to cover on this one. I hope that, coming off a short week, all the players are healthy and the Patriots are able to use this mini bye week to their advantage. But do you have any final thoughts heading into week 3 of the NFL season?
The real crappy part about Thursday Night Football is I have no excuse not to leave the house on Sunday and go do stupid fall things. So it's going to be like a double whammy for me.
Enjoy the apple picking and pumpkin picking and all the delightful apple cider, Alec. It's delightful. All right. Well, until next time, Alec, you have a good one.
You too, buddy. See ya.